Hello everyone. This video would focus on compound interest, and this is the second part. In this part, we're going to solve for the principal P and the interest rate R. Before we dive into this example that we have right here, let's go over the formula for compound interest. Please remember that compound interest is defined as the addition of interest to the principal sum of a loan or deposit. In other words, compound interest is interest on interest. It is the result of reinvesting interest rather than paying it out, so the interest in the next period is then earned on the principal sum plus previously accumulated interest. In other words, it is an interest on top of the interest. So the formula for compound interest is A equals P, quantity 1 plus R over N raised to the power NT, where our A is referred to as the total amount, including the previous interest earned. P is the principal. R is the interest rate. This has to be expressed in decimal. N here is the number of times interest is compounded per unit T, and T here is the time. Please remember that the value of N will be based on the following. So if it is compounded yearly, our N is 1. If it is compounded semi-annually, the N is 2. Quarterly, the N is 4. If it is compounded monthly, the N is 12. And if it's compounded weekly, it's going to be 52. And daily, it's going to be 365. Okay, going back to the example right here, Joseph invests in a retirement account with a fixed annual interest rate of 3.75% compounded semi-annually. Suppose after 13 years, the total balance of the account is $12,156.80. What was the amount of the initial investment? There are steps that we need to follow in order that we can solve problems involving compound interest. The first step is to write the given. So I'm just gonna put S1 right here for the first step. So these are the given values. So first we have the 3.75% here is actually the interest rate. So we're going to represent this as R. Now, please remember that R has to be expressed in decimal. So in order that we can change this to decimal, this 3.75%, we actually have to divide this by 100. So that is 3.75 divided by 100. And this gives us 0.0375. Another given that we have right here, it says that it is compounded semi-annually. So this tells us that our N is semi-annually, means it's 2, so twice in a year. And then another given that we have right here is 13 years. So this represents the time. So I'm just going to label this as T is equal to 13. And then the total balance in the account. So this is the amount after 13 years. So I'm going to label that as A. And that is $12,156.80. And then we are looking for the initial investment, or the principal. So I'm just gonna write P here as a question mark. So that is the variable that we're looking for. So we're ready to move on to the second step. The second step states that we are supposed to plug these values into the formula and we solve for whatever is the missing variable. In this case right here, we're missing the principal. So then I am going to label this as step 2 right here. So I'm going to write the formula for compound interest. Okay, so then we are going to plug the values in. So all of these variables, the R, N, T, A will be plugged in, and we keep the P as a variable. So this is how the formula is going to look like. Okay, so what I did was I divided this to 0.0375 divided by 2. This gives us this value right here, and I multiply the 2 and 13, and that gives me 26. So that from here we can change this to decimal form. So how we do that? Using the blue calculator. So what we do is we just have to type in this 1.01875, and then we hit the arrow up. The arrow up tells us that we have to write the exponent, and so that is to the exponent 26, and this gives us this number that we have right here. So then we can go ahead and rewrite this equation that we have right here as okay. We can also use the yellow calculator to do this. So it's pretty much the same thing. So if you have a TI-84, so all you need to do is just to type in this one right here, 1.01875, and then we hit the arrow up, and then that is 26. The answer is still the same. So it doesn't matter which one you use. You can also use Desmos calculator for this. It doesn't really matter. You still get the same answer. So then we wanted to solve for P here. So then we are going to divide both sides by this number, and that gives us the P. So I'm just going to show the work down here. Okay, after doing the math, we actually come up with 7,500. This means that the initial investment was actually 7,500, and then after 13 years, given this interest rate compounded semi-annually, it came out to be 12,156.80. Now, there is another way to do this without having to change this part right here into its decimal form. I will show the work on the side right here. Okay, so what we can do is we can divide right away with this one right here. So we are left with P on one side, so that if we use the calculator on this, so I'm going to type in 12,156.80 divided by, that's going to be 1.01875 to the power 26. That gives me the same value, 7,500. So this is going to come out 7,500. So you can either you can use any of these method right here. So you can just, if you don't want to deal with all of these numbers right here, you can just divide this whole expression to the 12,156.80. The answer is still the same. At this time, I would encourage you to pause this video and try this problem out on your own. And when you're done, unpause it and check your answer. Okay, so we go over the problem here. Again, the first step is to write out the given. So we're going to write all the given right here. So I'm just going to label this as step 1. Okay, so these are the given variables here. Again, I got these numbers from the given problem. So Cheryl invests 5,000 in an account. So that represents the principal. And then with a fixed annual interest rate compounded quarterly. So quarterly means 4. After 9 years, so 9 years is time, the total balance in the account is 5,892.98. So that is the amount in the account. What is the interest rate of the account? So we're looking for R. So again, these values were gotten from the given in the problem. So then we go ahead and move on to the second step. The second step tells us that we're supposed to plug in these values to the formula and solve for the missing variable, so that we can go ahead and label this as step 2 right here. And so we are going to write the formula for compound interest and plug these values in. So this is how it's going to look like. So we're solving for r. Now we have an exponent of 36. The next thing that we're going to do is to make this exponent into 1. So what are we going to do is, so we're going to raise both sides of the equation by 1 over 36 so that we can have exponent of 1 on this side. So if I raise this to 1 over 36, I will do the same thing on the other side. So it's going to be 1 over 36. So this comes out, 36 and 36 is going to get crossed out. So then this would give us this value. So the exponent right here becomes 1, so it goes away. So we have this expression right here. So what are we going to do is we are going to change this to decimal form. We can do that again when you are using the blue calculator. All you need to do is to type this in. So it's going to be parentheses 1.178596 close parentheses raised to the power. That's going to be 1 divided by 36. And so the value would come out this. So I'm just going to go ahead and write this down. Okay, so what I did was I changed this into its decimal form. This is how it looks like. You can use also the yellow calculator, the TI-84. So all we need to do is just to type this in, 1.178. That's going to be 596 raised to the power. So the power is this arrow up button that we have here. That's 1 divided by 36. The value is this one right here. So it's pretty much the same thing. You can also use Desmos calculator for this. So what are we going to do next? We want to solve for r. We are going to subtract both sides by 1. We subtract this by 1. So this one's going to get crossed out. So we are left with okay, now we want to solve for r. So what are we going to do is we are going to multiply 4 to both sides. So I'm going to multiply that by 4, and I do the same thing on the left side. So I multiply that by 4 so I can cross this out. So we are left with r is going to be, so multiplying these two together, this would come out. Okay, now we want the rate in percent. So what are we going to do is we just have to multiply this by 100 to make it to percent. So then the final rate for this in 2 decimal places would be 1.83%. So this is the interest rate. So I'm just going to put this inside the box. Did you get the same answer as this? R is equal to 1.83. Good. Perfect. If you find this video helpful, hit like and subscribe for more math videos. See ya!